We go to horror movies to feel scared. It's a natural reaction in movies within this genre. Every year we get a ton of new horror releases that promise a terrifying good time. And every year, a lot of these movies do indeed pass that mark. However, sometimes these movies don't live up to the expectations that many people place on them, which is kind of unfortunate. And unfortunately, this year, this is the exact scenario that Osgood Perkins' new film, The Monkey, lands in for me. I got to attend an early screening of this last Wednesday, a week and a half before its general release next weekend, and I walked in incredibly excited and optimistic. As although I didn't love it, I respected his previous film Longlegs because it showcased creative risk and artistry within the genre. I was looking forward to seeing how his style would fit in with the material of Stephen King's original short story, as it's quite a wild story. However, I walked out extremely disappointed and let down with this one. In the days since I've seen it, as I've started to gather my notes together for this review, I've recognized many different elements that don't exactly pass muster, but there's been an overall element that has been nagging at the back of my mind as unavoidable in terms of how poor the overall result of this is. And it wasn't until yesterday that I truly managed to put it down into words, which is the simple fact that the marketing for this film killed this movie. Now, movie marketing is an interesting niche inside this modern day industry. Film advertising campaigns are cutthroat in comparison to even 20 years ago, with studios earnestly looking to spread the word through promotional campaigns and early word of mouth. And this is specifically due in part to the poor box office performance within the last few years, being quite dry except for a select few instances. It would make sense then that Neon, the fantastic indie studio behind this film, would seek to capitalize on the horror hype that always surrounds each new horror movie release by advertising it in such an aggressive way. And that's exactly what they did, although not in a well-done way. In fact, what they did here with the marketing actually hurts the end product of this film in a way you cannot even imagine. Now, back last year, Neon was in charge of the advertisement campaign for Longlegs, which was of course Osgood Perkins' new movie. In the months and weeks leading up to the film's release, Neon pushed a promotional narrative that Longlegs was somehow the quote-unquote scariest film of the year. Now, they further pushed this by inviting horror-specific influencers and critics to see it early and pushing their positive word of mouth out to unsuspecting audience goers about the film's terrifying content. This further built the hype up surrounding the film before its release, leading to sold-out crowds in theaters upon its Thursday night preview. Except, audiences sat down for the movie only to find out that the film wasn't that scary. For all the talk Neon had built up before the film's release really pushing that angle, the result was somehow confusing and in some cases anger-inducing to many moviegoer fans. At the time of its release, I fell into the camp that was somewhat confused by this angle. But when you objectively look at it from an outsider perspective, what Neon did with the marketing for Longlegs is something that almost every single movie studio inside the Hollywood industry does with their films. This caused me to make peace with it, and it actually showcased a positive element when I viewed the promotion for this new film, The Monkey. Now, Neon replaced the overly positive hype around the horror within the movie in favor of actually showing more of the wild and insane footage that audiences could expect from the movie itself, which actually led me to become actively interested in this film this time around. I know I wasn't the only one too, as my early screening was almost entirely full of like-minded audience goers who had seen the insane marketing featuring footage of people's heads burning and other such graphic material and were ready for whatever Perkins and his crew had crafted. Only I walked out of this film actually hating the marketing for a specific reason. And that specific reason was the marketing had shown way too much of this movie. Almost everything good here, as a matter of fact. I'm telling you, if you've seen at least one trailer or TV spot for this, you've seen almost everything that makes this film worthwhile or substantial. The film is not aiming to be high art, and that much is apparent. It's a pulpy and grotesque horror film about a toy monkey that randomly kills people in surreal and often gory ways. However, the problem with the marketing for this film is that so much of this movie revolves around these moments. There are only around 6 kills inside this movie. The film is reminiscent of the Final Destination series, and that these kills are legitimately what the movie is about. They steer the plot forward and should offer audience goers those moments of shock, bewilderment, and disgust that they come to expect from horror movies. However, in the most baffling marketing decision of all time, Neon has decided to reveal 4 out of these 6 kills in the movie's marketing campaign. Now, what does this mean? It means you sit in the theater as all this wild stuff happens on screen, and you think to yourself as it happens, I saw that in the trailer, which is the specific problem here. When a film like this requires you to so desperately care for and react to all this insane graphic material occurring at once, the fact that the impact is completely lost due to the fact that you've seen the setup and execution of these sequences already is mind-boggling. Like, yes, Neon, you've gotten people into the theater, but at what cost? Outside of these sequences, perhaps the biggest problem with The Monkey is that there's nothing else substantial here, besides those moments. The story is quite simplistic, the characters feel thin, and the stakes feel inconsistent. And sure, that might be the point, because it's based off a Stephen King short story after all. But you feel that inconsistency due to the fact that 45 pages of material were stretched out to over 90 minutes. Theo James does fine work as the dual leads, but Tatiana Mainsley really steals every scene here. Elijah Wood shows up for a bit part, but doesn't do anything particularly noteworthy, and Christian Convery does solid work as the younger versions of Theo James's characters. Osgood Perkins has never been in finer form as a filmmaker, and that much is apparent. The direction and cinematography are simply stunning, and Perkins really knows how to use the frame for sequences for maximum effectiveness. However, the writing is another story entirely. In adapting this story to the big screen, Perkins has attempted to capture and replicate the same mix of dark humor that Stephen King excels at in his stories. However, Perkins doesn't manage to pull it off. Rather, everything here feels 10 times more mean-spirited and in poor taste from King's original story, as the film flips back and forth between graphic sequences and humor with zero tonality or ease, making it feel jarring and ineffective. The pacing also falls short in key areas, as mentioned, as the 90-minute runtime feels particularly mind-numbing considering the material here is so simplistic. Overall, The Monkey is a frustrating film, if not just for its absolutely horrendous marketing that ruins everything, but for its lackluster execution, pacing, and writing. The film shows a lot of promise in the first act, and Perkins continues to showcase how strong of a visual storyteller he is in the horror genre. But the film devolves into chaotic nonsense with ease, never staking a definitive landing or leaving a noteworthy impact with its audience. Now, if you've managed to skip the marketing for this film entirely, great. You'll probably enjoy this film for the wild and graphic ride it is. If, however, you've been lured to the theater by the promise of its advertising, you might find yourself experiencing deja vu and not in a good way. That's why I'm giving The Monkey a 2.5 out of 5 stars. The Monkey releases in theaters everywhere this Friday. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this review on my channel. If you're new around here and you like the content you see, don't forget to click that subscribe button down below, like the video, and turn on push notifications. Also, leave comment suggestions down below for future video, essay, and review topics. With that being said, until next time, this is Mitchell signing off. Peace out.